Okay, 69 Firebird. Look at this. We got metal that more or less fits. So, we got a bit of a gap to worry about down here. You got that little bit where it gets big up here, and that seems to be how these are. Now somebody has ground a bit off the edge of this door because they had it super tight and they ended up shaving a bunch off. So I think that gap, when we weld that edge shut, will be fine. Now we're going to do an aftermarket door anyway, so we're not even going to worry about that. But what we're looking at is this gap here is pretty good from here down where the door is unaltered. Now down at the bottom you'll see where it's off a touch. When I clamp this to the wheelhouse, that pulls forward nicely, so that is actually going to be just fine. But we can pull this super tight all the way around. There's a big extra lip that goes in under here, and it's holding it onto the car. We got no clamps back here. Like, that's pretty tight. It'll almost pressure fit on the car with just this one clamp here because that top pops out. We put the trunk on, so with the rubber this would sit about here, and as you can see, that's like really close. This tape is probably throwing us off a bit here, but I don't know why these two stripes of tapes are on here, but we don't care. But there you go. This corner's fine. Like, if this is where this lived, we're happy with that. We're happy with most of that gap. There's a little corner here, and that always happens with these quarters. Sometimes you can knock in a little dimple and then round this in flat and fill it, or you can slice it, close it, weld it. Now we come over to the other side. It's a little bit off, but our corner gaps on this side, the corner is good, but our gap right here at the joint is the same as this right here. So we don't want to take the trunk lid up. The trunk lid is where it's going to live. Now we do seem a little tighter here, but this plane isn't the same, so we're going to manipulate the trunk up the same way you would do an aftermarket trunk lid. And it could be that this thing lived like this. Could be one time someone sat on it, you know, some hot chick back in '74 in high school, right when this was in its prime. Things happen. These cars were tools at the time. They were beat, they were driven. So we will make that fit real nice. Now, one thing with these Dynacorn quarters, and pretty much every one I've done on any Camaro, the gap is tight here. Some guys will live with that, but I feel it looks weird. So what I like to do is come under here, knock it in, and sometimes that edge will roll in. You knock in. Well, let's go in there and have a look at it. Now, it may allow it and it may not, but you come down in here with like a real blunt round punch or a little piece of round metal welded to another punch, and you knock this in, and then you slowly knock this edge and it'll roll itself in. So you stretch it here and you keep rolling it in, and you should get it pretty close. We don't need perfect on this car, but we want it better than this. And honestly, you could live with it the way it is. Some people anyway would, but we're not going to do that. Here, let's get that out of there so it don't catch in the trunk. But this is what it should look like here. Oh, hang on. There we go. What you can see here, now our gap is really good at the back down here and whatnot. It's a little big up here. Now there's not much I can do with that, because if we try to push that in, it's going to bunch up on us everywhere else, and it's pretty smooth. The plane this way fits pretty good. So what I'm thinking is we'll do 2-3 shots around this edge. I'm going to use Cree 321 on this car, a high build primer. So we won't even need filler, but what we'll do is I'm going to mark a few places on the car after we've blocked all the planes straight. And this is one of those areas. I might come in, do 2 fat coats of Cree 321, and then we'll do a medium coat and a crazy thick coat on the whole car. So we'll have a little more fill there with the primer, and we should be able to take enough of that out that that'll disappear. And that's basically all we want to do there. But this right here in the corner seems to round down, and it doesn't have that little tip up like the other side should have. So right in here, when this got mangled, this probably got pulled down. So as we knock this out, we're going to hammer and dolly this. We're going to try to get this. It'll never be perfect, but we're going to get it as close as we can, because we want to use the least amount of filler. And if this gets too mashed up and the rest comes super straight, we'll cut that out, straighten this, get our shape going, and then we'll put a little piece in. Because we don't want, well, I don't want almost any filler in this car. I'm going to be straight honest. I do a lot of cars, and I mean, we use a lot of filler. But mainly I like to use the filler for blocking and straightening minor defects out. Like, can you fill a car old school? Well, sometimes. But in this case, it's simple. We got a good quarter for the other side. We got a brand new quarter for this side. We're going to be swapping these doors out after the quarters are done. We're going to put our Dynacorn doors on. And maybe we got to work with them a little bit, but that's fine. But essentially, this car's going to have a lot of new metal in it. There doesn't seem to be a lot of filler anywhere in this car. Now, we do have a small repair on this rocker and a bigger one on the other one to do, but the rockers are really, really good otherwise. And basically on the other side where the trim screw went in, there's a spot where it's messed up. We could probably put a patch about so big in there, or we're going to cut probably a foot out of it. And we're going to weld that in because, you know, you go further than you have to. And when we look inside the rockers, however, because we are going to open them both up a little bit, I'll shove a light and a camera in them. If they're all rusty and crusty inside, we're going to be cutting the rockers off and replacing them. And if they're absolutely perfect inside and there's still paint on them, we're not going to touch them. Now, I'm being hopeful that they're mint. Because, you know, mint. That structure in there was all mint. And if that's all mint, chances are in there should be about the same or better. So let's hope they're mint. Yeah, this side, I can't remember. Yeah, there's a little hole there and a little bubbling around the paint. And no, it's up here. Sorry, there we go. You see a little bit of blistering in the paint there. So we're going to clean that right up and see. But we're likely going to take a little chunk out. And we might cut it out and find out, oh, we shouldn't have done that. But honestly, we want to be able to get in there and see what's in there. And hopefully it's super duper clean. And we got to fix that spot anyway. So if we do overkill, who cares? There's no rubber, so the door will go in further. But as you can see, this is good. You know, our heights are good. Our fitments are going to be good. I do have a screw holding that on, but if I clamp this, when it ain't screwed in, it does push ahead. So we're happy with this quarter. We're still going to have to grind all this weld off, minimal gap. We're going to have to weld that shut. You know, it's too bad that somebody messed it up a little bit, but look, a few days in, we've already got the car where things are going to fit. Now down here, we found a bunch of filler, and then, now these cars, if you know these cars at all, they got a bunch of welds here. Your bumper covers all this. That's how they were made. But instead of fixing down here the cracks in the filler, the last guy decided to skim coat this. Now there might have been a crack here and he just went across the whole thing. But this is where in the other videos I showed you that shiny metal that had never been touched. So all we did, as you see by all that filler on the floor, what did my buddy do here the other day? He basically grabbed a grinder with a wire wheel on it, the ones that shoot forward like the cone, and he just basically ate through the filler and then stripped the rest off. So we're going to go ahead and take that down to metal. But whatever we got to do here, we're probably going to have to put a new chunk in there because that's pretty stretched and mangled. You can see where at one time it had a dent there. And then this is just from them pulling. They really mucked it up. So what we'll do, when we get that one cleaned off to metal, and it's okay, there is a dent down in there, but up here the shape is good. So there's a little shape here. We're going to have to mimic that and come down to about here. This will hammer and dolly out, and probably going to have to put a patch panel in. Just that metal is so stretched. I'm going to try to fix it. We'll likely end up putting a patch in it. So I showed you that the trunk fits, except for right here, but this we're going to pull back a touch when we work on this. Now as for this side, there's a little bit more surface rust, but again, nothing, you know, some rust converter or sandblast it out, whatever you want to do works. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to use DOM 16 on it, and that's pretty much it. And I'm talking this stuff, of course. Now down in here, this is nice, but right here isn't. We do have to cut this little thin layer that no one removed. That's still on both sides. If we leave it in and there's rust between, it's going to come back. So we're going to have to peel that off each side before we do put our quarters on. And we are going to have to weld these back onto the bottom. So what have we done on this side here? Let me grab my bench and we'll roll right into it. So this, we discovered, was all mangled underneath. And this is the side that had the skin. And the funny thing about this quarter is the owner was told by the last body shop that they put the new skin on this side. However, there was this filler in it. Almost like they ground it off because they'd put filler on and took it off. And that never made sense to me. But the truth is they never put a quarter on this side of the car. What happened was there was a quarter on this side of the car. They were supposed to replace both of these, or at least repair this, and they were supposed to put 2 quarters on the car that were provided. Full quarters, by the way. And then the guy said it wouldn't fit. He sent it back and he put the skin on instead. He basically ground this off, found a good skin, and now that it was in bare metal, he just claimed that he replaced it. So, now we know why it's got 2 mismatched quarters. And I kind of suspected that, again. Why would you put filler and then grind it off? It makes no sense. So, at one time, this car had been hit on this side. Now on the other side, this is clean and black. And on this side, after they fixed it, they sprayed, I don't know, I'm going to guess gravel guard that's dried up from being 30 years old. But this was all smashed. We had to actually pull this out. And the metal was strong. Like, this is super strong. It's not rotten, so we remade an edge, and then here we went up a little higher because this was just so distorted. We wanted to weld to where everything was as close to factory as possible. We had a couple little kinks there. The back side is nice, like the weld went through, but I can't cut myself on it. Now I will take the tire off. We will go inside, and if there's any touch-ups we got to do, we'll do them. And what I'll do is use a grinding wheel on one of my small grinders. We'll come up in here and just catch the edges. So if anyone does grab this quarter, we want it to look good and feel good and not have any roughness. It's actually pretty good, so I don't think it'll be too difficult. Now we're going to have to touch up this a little bit, weld some of these holes shut before we put our quarter on. But this is all pretty good. I might actually take the spot blaster because I got to do the welds anyway. We'll clean this up. We'll try to clean most of this off, and we'll give this a good rust treatment before we epoxy it or whatever we do in there. I mean, we might just clean this off and do the Pour 15 thing. That's what the owner said to do, so we might do that. We'll go up the pier, reach in as far as we can. The other side has less rust, but we'll do that too. Now, you can see down here, probably when it was wrecked, they put a patch in. You could almost do a cut and butt to fix this and align it, but there's an extra layer of junk in here, and this is healthy. So we're going to remove this patch, cut this straight. I'm just going to remake this. We're going to make it on a curve. We're going to use a big piece off of the one we cut off before. And the curve will be close, and we're just going to come out past, and we're going to manually manipulate this and dolly it and just recreate this edge. And then we're going to take another piece of this and run it right down the inside. So this is going to be a lot of work right here because we got to replace this, create our quarter edge so we have something to weld to. We're also going to cut this here, and I don't know if I'm going to concentrate on all this. We will make the hole, but we will have to at very least do these and put the hole in the middle one so we can fix this. We want it to look good from the inside, so if you have this car up on a hoist, we want it to be clean. We're not changing all this. We're just going to cut right up here and right like this. We'll build this corner. Some guys would just put a straight patch in and weld it together, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to try to go the extra mile and put the ridges in just because I have the tools to do it. You know, we got to think about these cars to some degree, in a sense, like with the sense of budget. There's a limit to how much you want to do, how far you want to go. And at the end of the day, the owner's going to make a lot of decisions. Now, I can tell them, no, I only do it a certain way or whatever, but the repair we're going to do back there is going to be nice and it's solid. I mean, look at it. It's not even rusty. It's black. But the inside of this corner on the inside here is all pitted. That's why, like I say, it might end up being bigger than what I showed you. But we'll replace those corners. This one's good. We'll sandblast all this, clean it up. But that was definitely hit at one time.